Hi, my name is Richard Smith, and I'm the curator here at the Fullerton Museum Center. We're sitting in the Leo Fender gallery, and this is the room that we call the biography room. It's where we keep some of the artifacts from Leo's early days here in Fullerton, including a radio that he made at the radio shop, and K&F amplifier and guitar set, and a very early Stratocaster. What we're going to do is watch an 8mm home movie that was done at the Fender factory in 1957. It was taken by Forrest White, who was the plant manager, who had worked for Fender from 1954, and he was a real music fan. I think early on he saw the importance of what Fender was doing, and he was really kind of caught up in the whole history of Fender early on, and was able to document the company with his collection of catalogs and also with his photographs that he saved, and with his home movie. It's kind of interesting to think that a guy gets a camera, and the first thing he does is he takes it to work to show, to document what's going on at work. But he really loved the guitars, and he really loved the Guitar Factory, and he loved working with Leo. So without any further ado, let's go back to 1957 and watch a home movie taken at the Fender plant at the corner of Raymond and Valencia here in downtown Fullerton, and see what we can learn about how Fender guitars were made in the old days. This is the Fender factory right downtown. This is at Raymond in Valencia, and I think that's Ione Lambert. She was a woman who worked in the office. She's one of the secretaries. Oh, this is Ione Lambert here with the dress on. Cool microphone too. That's a good blues harp microphone right there on the counter. This really was a home movie, as you can tell. I mean, that's the professional production quality is not really up to speed. See a picture of Jimmy Bryant back there on the wall? That's a pretty common picture of Jimmy. Got Leo's photo gear, his photo floods there against the wall next to the desk, behind the desk. Doing the books. A lot of people talk about Leo about how he had a cash flow problem. That's what his problem was. He was making a lot of money, but the cash flow was the problem. He had a hard time keeping everybody employed year-round because it was seasonal. There's a Fender price sheet sitting on the desk. I think this is probably Leo's desk. It could be Forrest's. A little chart there for tools. Smile for the camera. It's 4:45. Look at the clock on the desk there. Working late. This is the inside of the factory, and you can see the racks they had. Not too unlike what they had, what they still have. Of course, they're all air conditioned and climate controlled. Back then, obviously, they had the big fans set up. Later on, I think we see some of those fans by the doors. The guys were not modest. They just went ahead and worked without shirts on. You can see at punch press how it works. You don't want to get your fingers stuck in there. They're making cover plates. Look like a cover plate for a bass. That could have been a cover plate for a steel guitar, but I think it was that one was for a precision bass. Cleaning up the edges on a pickguard, a Telecaster pickguard. Oh, that's an Esquire pickguard, isn't it? Because there's no cutout for the. Here we have. Now this is Leo's lab. There's Leo, pocket protector in place. Got a prototype Jazzmaster sitting on the table in front of him. He worked just exactly like this at G&L. This Lyman Race and Olmsted Tool and Die Company. Here's Freddie playing the prototype. Now, this is an interesting guitar because it has a Strat vibrato. It has multi-pole pickups. Those are 7 poles instead of 6, and the strings go between the poles. The whole idea there was to smooth out the sound, to kind of reduce the attack. The attack that everybody loves on Fender guitars, that's what he was trying to eliminate. Trying to achieve the dinka-dinka sound, as Leo would say. That's the jazz tone, dinka-dinka. Back at the factory. Shipping and receiving, modern architecture. Got the Ford pickup truck. Leo would, they'd load this up and send it down to Randall down in Santa Ana, and that's where the stuff was shipped from, to the dealers. Looks like they're sorting out cables for steel guitars there on the floor. This is the cabinet shop, the wood storage in the background. Forrest went crazy when he started at Fender trying to keep track of all the parts, because they were making steel guitars, making amplifiers, they're making Spanish guitars, and making basses. He wanted to get some kind of a standardization to that. Have it all filed away and all stored logically. That was one of his big problems, was getting all the parts put where they could find them. Here's using the saw. As you can tell, this could be a dangerous operation as well. We're sanding the amplifier cabinets. Looks like a basement cabinet. Pin routing. If I'm not mistaken, this is the back of a steel guitar. It's Fred Fullerton, that's George Fullerton's dad. Now, is this a Telecaster body? You be the judge. It's either a Tele or some other Fender guitar. Looking good. They're working on necks. Working on the headstock there. A lot of emphasis has been on the hand quality of these early guitars. A lot of operations have changed now. They're using the numerically controlled computers now to cut most of the stuff at the factory, which makes everything exactly the same. And you can see the variations, even with those steel templates and everything that they did to make everything uniform. There's still little variations. Not a big assembly line. This is pretty much one at a time. Still no conveyor belts like they have now. They have this pretty elaborate system in the new factory at Fender. And like I said, this is seasonal. There you go. To see the fans working overtime, cutting the contours on the Strat body. Or excuse me, sanding the contours, not cutting them. Big belt sander. Leo and George made a lot of these tools. They didn't just go out and buy them. They actually had to figure out how to do it right and then make their own setup. Here we got winding pickups. Leo used to always say that the women that worked for him that wound pickups could wind them tighter than any of the machines they used later on, any of the automated ways of doing it. This is the neck department. A lot of attention has been paid to the dates that they put on these necks. That's Lloyd tuning. Lloyd worked for Leo for decades. He ended up at G&L in the 1990s before he passed away, and he was a great guy. Used to see him all the time down at G&L. Sanding the back of a Strat neck, it looks like. Spray booth. Notice no respirators, no air control, no way to guard from breathing all of that lacquer. And then here the finish sanding, probably with rubbing compound. Getting an idea of the amount of work they're doing. This is Looks like this looks like a duosonic, doesn't it? Not sure about what that. I like the Western shirt though. And here we go. I believe that's Gene Gallion. He worked at the factory quite a while. Some of the other guys sitting around taking a break. It's amazing how many people smoked. I guess that had something to do with the pre-CBS. Yeah, and like I said, the jobs were seasonal for the most part. Forrest said that he had a very hard time keeping these guys working all year. They'd get their big orders at the summer trade shows, and then they'd be busy into the fall, and then they'd get all that stuff shipped out before Christmas, and then in the first part of the year, the first half of the year, they'd have to lay people off. That looks to me like a custom color Stratocaster in the making. A little bit of fine sanding there between coats. The other thing that was really interesting at the Fender factory is that everybody had skills to work at any job virtually. I mean, these girls would be sanding one day, and then the next day they'd be, doing other things like working in the amplifiers, wiring the chassis, winding pickups. Winding pickups was a specialty. That took some learning how to do, a lot of practice, a lot of repetition. Forrest was very proud of this. This is Abigail right here, I believe. Still works the Fender Custom Shop. As I was saying, Forrest was very, very interested in the technology of his movie camera. And it's really unfortunate that he didn't take more pictures and wasn't able to kind of like show us some of the other things that were going on at the time. And it's really too bad there's no sound involved. But this is setting up a Strat bridge. It's Gene Gallion again, tuning up a Strat. I think he's got a strobe tuner there on the desk on his workbench, but I'm not sure. Polishing up a Strat. That's what they used to look like. Pretty cool. I think this is George, isn't it? George Fullerton. Checking out Strat. Final inspection. Non-trem model. A lot to be made about the quality control at Fender. They are very concerned about quality control all the time, but nevertheless, a lot of stuff got through that wouldn't necessarily get through today. This is putting tweed on an amp cabinet. I think that's a 410 basement again. You put the adhesive on the tweed fabric and then just slap it on there. You can see the knots in the wood, the pine cabinets there. Of course, the off-gassing from those knots would stain the tweed underneath them, and so it would be marked. Especially true with the Tolex, you could really see where the knots were. Look at that soldering iron. That's industrial strength, boy. Let me tell you. I would hate to get myself burnt by that thing. Permanent damage. Plug in the chassis. Some of those amps got shipped with the original tape on the power cord there. It's still intact. Here we are. That's, see, 410 Bassman. There you go. 4 speakers. Those Blue Jensens. Where's that amp today? Looks like a twin, doesn't it? I think so. 4 power tube twin. Or maybe that's 2 rectifier tubes and 2 power tubes. That's hard to say. Yeah, that's what it is. The speakers are staggered too. The nicest pair of Levi's in the entire factory right there, folks. 501XX. The shipping boxes, where are they now? This is Alvino Ray. He's one of Leo's best friends, related to the King family. The King sisters, married to one of the King sisters. Probably the most underrated steel player of his generation. He was really, really good, and he was a very good Spanish guitar player as well. And he helped Leo develop the Fender 1000, which this is the prototype right here. Probably did more to influence Leo. Probably along with Noel Boggs, they were Leo's biggest influence on steel guitars. They used the pedals, but they didn't play the pedals the same way players today would use the pedals. They basically used the pedals to change the tuning of the neck instead of playing the pedals individually. Here's this pretty cool Stratocaster. I don't think the guitar's plugged in, is it? I think Leo's listening very carefully and watching a guitar that's not... No, Thumbs Carlisle. This is pretty wild, isn't it? A lot of you guys haven't seen this. This is Thumbs working out on a Stratocaster. And you can get voicings in this that you couldn't get any other way. Very unique style of playing. Metal pick guard. Blonde finish. There's the fiddle. Leo had this electric fiddle going as early as 1952. I think this is one of the early prototypes for the pickup. Later on, he would introduce the electric violin, but this is the prototype. Now this is Noel Boggs standing out in the parking lot. Got the old station wagon in the background, and you got a Fender 1000, and then you have the 4-neck Fender Stringmaster. Now, what Noel is doing there is he's demonstrating how those pedals change the tunings of the necks, so you can get almost any tuning imaginable with the 6 or 7 floor pedals. He's tuning his 4-neck. One of those necks is tuned in a bass register. There's Leo. We think that's Leo's Chrysler Imperial in back. We're not sure about that, but that